Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic. Doctors of Reddit, what happened when you diagnosed a COVID-19 denier with COVID-19? Didn't diagnose, but I'm sure you'll appreciate the mental gymnastics. I worked OBS and GYE a few months back. For obstetrics we had an amber ward, confirmed non-COVID ward, and a red ward, confirmed COVID /no test done. We'd require mum and partner to both get COVID tests done in our clinic the day before the planned admission so we knew which ward to place them in. One patient refused to have the swab taken because she thought COVID was a hoax. So we were told her she'd have to stay in the red ward during her admission as we couldn't confirm she didn't have COVID if she didn't have a test. She went absolutely mental saying you can't do that. What if I get COVID? Bruh. Very bruh. A friend of mine has COVID denier parents. Her dad is a pastor in Oklahoma. He contracted COVID, because they were having services without masks, since this whole COVID thing is just a way to suppress Christians, and came down with a pretty severe case. After it was all done they remaining COVID down players /mask /vaccine because God kept them safe and it wasn't that bad since they didn't get hospitalized. Her mom had a very mild case but her grandma died. But since she was already ill she went on hospice so it didn't count. Got a relative just like this. Was having a conversation about COVID. He was speaking the it's fake news blah blah blah. That dies down, he mentions his mom died. Oh shit, of what? COVID. I mean it was clots in her brain. But they marked it as COVID. I let it go, dude wasn't going to change his mind, but that is one of the direct results of COVID. One of my COVID minimizer, Ask relatives is in the hospital with COVID right now. His wife is throwing shit fits all over the place because they won't allow visitors without a vaccine. I feel bad that I don't feel bad. I just hope they didn't infect anyone else. A doc chiming in. They told me I was wrong. Obviously, there's no way they had COVID despite coming into the ER for shortness of breath, cough, and fevers. When I mentioned that their wife who was several rooms down also had COVID, their response was, oh, that makes sense because she always gets sick. When I asked how it made sense that they wouldn't have COVID with the same symptoms I was told that it was because they were overall healthy and only took their mask off to eat and drink in the casino. Eat and drink in the casino? Oh, you mean the place where everyone is partaking of risky behavior? Don't slot shame. As a casino worker, I can guarantee it was off the second they got past security. I'm drinking. See. Points to unattended drink sitting next to their slot machine that has gone from a frozen margarita to a nice less rocks margarita. I had a lady who was maxed out on high flow, next step is breathing tube, who still refused she had COVID and was holding a negative test in her hand that she had taken a week prior. The COVID equivalent of the Black Knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Tease but a flu. I actually feel bad for her. It sounds like she wasn't denying that COVID exists, just that she had it, and was stuck in that denial stage. Yeah, that can be a big diagnosis to take in. Like she was clinging to the but I'm negative. I work on a COVID unit and I ran into a patient like this. They'd tell me over and over again about how they weren't really sick and about how I didn't need to be gowned up in PPE. They even tried to take my face shield off. If you test positive for COVID 2 times, then you have COVID. People are crazy. They even tried to take my face shield off. That is beyond crazy IMO. Be nuts all to yourself, don't fucking touch others you psycho. I wonder if this is a defense mechanism. He's trying so hard to deny it to himself he needs others to buy into it for his own reassurance. It's crazy that people do things like this. I had a patient grab my cap or cord and tell me I didn't need it, as they are sitting there on BiPAP after dumping their SATs into the Cervettes just trying to take a crap on a bedside commode. I had to tell myself they were in denial about the fact they were dying, but fuck if they are taking me with them. I'm an anesthesiologist, and in our institution, we are the ones tasked with intubating COVID suspects / positive patients who would otherwise die without ventilatory support. And holy hell, there are a lot of patients who don't believe COVID is real. Most of them believe that it's just an elaborate lie that doctors use to label random patients to mooch money off them. Some of them scream at us, in whatever capacity their diseased lungs can allow them to, some outright refuse intubation, in which case they die several hours later from respiratory failure. It's emotionally taxing having to face that every shift. When was the stage of the Black Death where people said no, this isn't happening to anyone, this is a trick of the devil to make us think God has abandoned us, no one is actually sick at all. Are we just worse at scientific reasoning than 13th century peasants? TBF, it's harder to deny when 70% of your town is rotting in the street. Still had to treat her despite her accusing me of hiding the real diagnosis from her and doing something to make her sicker. Love my job. I can't fathom that people really believe that in a pandemic their likelihood of having COVID is so low that they accuse people of hiding a diagnosis. Makes no sense to me. To them there is no pandemic and COVID is a hoax and the doctors are trying to silence them. I'm an attending physician at our triage unit. On a Friday, an older gentleman, 60 plus years, came in with his entire family, wife, sister, BIL, 2 UFIs and 3 children, none of them with a fast mask. All had mild COVID symptoms except him, he was saturating 80% with evident shortness of breath. We insisted in doing PCR and a chest CAT scan looking for COVID, but he and his wife refused, saying that COVID wasn't real and it was just a bacterial infection. The more we talked with him, the more agitated he got, to the point that his face was red. We suggested hospitalizing him to stabilize him and start treatment, but they accused us of exaggerating his symptoms and that we only wanted to hospitalize him so we could steal the liquid in his knees, a stupid rumor that was going around when this whole thing started. They both cursed at us and said they were going to a better hospital to get antibiotics. Fast forward 24 hours later on Saturday, we get a call from the hospital next county over telling us that they intubated one of our patients because he went into respiratory failure when he arrived and they had to transfer him here because they don't have the appropriate equipment. We transfer the patient on Sunday only to find out on the CAT scan he had 90% of lung damage. He passed away on Monday morning. Just before the family took the body away, I gave the widow the death certificate that I filled out, and before walking away, she turns around and waves the certificate yelling, "See? I told you it wasn't COVID. It says here, death due to pulmonary pneumonia due to SARS-CoV-2. I knew it was a bacteria. I told her, SARS-CoV-2 is COVID-19. Edit, because everyone's asking what happened afterwards, not much. She yelled, "No, it's SARS. It's a bacteria." And stormed off. It's actually one of the mildest encounters I've had with a grieving widow. Steal the liquid in his knees. What in the fuck? The oh so valuable knee juice. It's probably one of the stupidest things I've heard during 2020. The idea was that doctors were willingly killing patients and writing down COVID as a cause, mainly because we would steal the patient's precious knee liquid and sell it on the black market for $100,000 because it was more valuable than platinum. The amount of people that believed this was bonkers. It's difficult to argue with a genius, but it's impossible to argue with an idiot. We only wanted to hospitalize him so we could steal the liquid in his knees, a stupid rumor that was going around when this whole thing started. I hadn't heard of stealing knee liquid before. Like, how do you even arrive at such a bizarre conclusion? My only guess is that he thinks synovial fluid can be transferred from one person to another. RN here with most of 2020 spent in COVID land. I never had anyone refuse treatment when things got serious. I know some of the MDs I worked with got yelled at, like the rest of us, but honestly that happens frequently anyway. Some denier patients lived, many of which had accepted reality by the end of their stay after seeing what we all were going through to treat them. Some died telling me I was a sheep or an idiot or a liar between gasps of air. COVID didn't care. COVID didn't care is a great quote. My uncle claimed he's take his chances with COVID during our masked, socially distanced Easter get-together at my grandmother's house, and that he was very hesitant to get vaccinated when many of my relatives have already gotten the vaccine and none of us have turned into 5G goons, only to test positive for the virus literally that evening. Ever since, he has been fighting for his life, and has seen the reality of the situation, and has finally agreed to be vaccinated once he recovers. It's shocking that it takes such an awful close encounter to turn people, and that others go to their grave having been deniers. Imagine your last words are calling the guy trying to save your life a liar. Specifically, sheep is the worst one there, IMO. My worst experience was when a 2-year-old kid got diagnosed with COVID. His mother had brought him with C/O fever and diarrhea. The child was severely dehydrated, and so we had to do a mandatory swab test since we planned to admit him. It came positive and the mother refused to admit it. We were ready to perform a repeat test and we even advised for the parents to get tested. Her defense was the child never left the house. It's just I and the father who go to work daily. The grandmother babysits while we are away. How can he even get COVID without leaving the house? She had called her husband, he came with 10 to 15 relatives in a car, they broke a few chairs and then left with the baby. We just informed about the case to the COVID control center. A family full of clowns. That's the only explanation I can come up with. Fun fact, clowns actually have a code of ethics, apparently. It's called the 8 Commandments. What the fuck? It makes me sad and pisses me off that they can just take the poor baby without him getting medical treatment. Horrible, horrible people.